When a connection really ends, it doesn't explode, it just goes quiet. Both of you stop talking, and somehow, your brain turns up the volume instead of turning it down. You don't message, they don't message, but your nervous system keeps refreshing the chat, rehearsing every version of, "What if I said this?" while you secretly wonder, who actually holds the power now? This video is about that silent standoff. What's happening inside you, what's quietly happening inside them, and how, over time, the balance slowly shifts in a direction you don't expect. Most videos either tell you to man up and move on, or hand you a script to blame them. Here, we're going to open the engine, the addiction to their attention, the ego that needs to feel chosen, and the point where your silence stops being torture and starts becoming leverage. If you stay until the end, you'll leave with a frame you can't unsee, one that makes it very hard to keep playing the same role in this story without catching yourself in the act. This is PsycheLure. We don't shout over your pain, we sit with it, name the pattern, and hand the power back to you. Section 1. Mapping the silent battlefield. When you both stop reaching out, it looks like nothing is happening, but inside, two nervous systems are reacting in completely different ways. On one side, someone who leans avoidant feels a rush of relief. No more uncomfortable talks, no more demands, no more pressure to show up emotionally. On your side, the quiet doesn't feel like peace, it feels like withdrawal. Your brain has been trained by months of pings, replies, and late-night typing bubbles, and now it's checking your phone like it's waiting for the next dose. If we strip away the romance and just look at the wiring, you've probably been the pursuer in this dynamic, the one who sends the follow-ups, patching over awkward silences, making excuses for their distance so you don't have to face what it might really mean. They got used to retreating whenever intimacy felt too close, and you got used to chasing whenever distance triggered your fear of being replaced. So the relationship became a loop. They step back, you step forward, both of you feel temporarily safer in your familiar role. When the messages stop on both sides, it's not just a breakup. It's that loop losing its script, and neither of you knows who you are without playing your usual part. In that early silence, the avoidant often tells themselves a story about freedom and control, while you tell yourself a story about failure and not being enough, and both stories are incomplete. Because under their relief, there's usually a muted fear of being truly seen and then rejected. Under your obsession, there's usually an older fear, that if you don't prove your worth, you'll be abandoned like you were before. This is the battlefield you're standing on now, not just between you and them, but between your current self and every unhealed version of you that is trying to answer the question, am I still chosen if I stop trying this hard? Section 2. Confession, your role in the loop. Here's the part that stings a little. You weren't just the caring one, you were also the one who kept the whole thing alive every time it was about to collapse. You filled the gaps in conversation. You apologized first, you explained their behavior to yourself and to your friends, and every time you did, your nervous system learned one message: my safety depends on me fixing this. That's why the silence hurts so much now. It's not only about missing them, it's about your body losing a job it thought it had to do to survive. Checking, chasing, smoothing, rescuing. If you look back honestly, how many times did you sense they were half in, but you turned that into a project? If I just love them better, if I just say it the right way, if I just stay patient, they'll finally meet me where I am. That mindset feels noble on the surface, but underneath it's a kind of control. You're trying to manage their distance so you never have to sit with your own fear of being left. That's not evil, it's just unhealed. The algorithm of your brain is simple. Distance appears, panic rises. You send a message, a meme, a check-in. They respond just enough. Your panic drops. The loop gets reinforced. Now that both of you have gone quiet, the loop is broken on the outside, but it's still firing inside you, which is why you feel restless, guilty, almost irresponsible for not doing something to repair it. This is your confession moment. Not, I was stupid for caring, but I kept accepting half love because I was terrified that if I stopped carrying the bridge, there would be nothing left, including me. And that realization is not an indictment. It's the doorway into the only kind of power that lasts. The kind where you learn to stay with your own fear without reflexively running back to the person who keeps triggering it. Section 3. The decision point. Choosing not to break silence. There's a moment in every no-contact standoff where your thumb hovers over the keyboard and you can feel two futures waiting, depending on whether you press send or not. In one future, you type something soft and harmless, a meme, hey, just checking in. And for a few seconds, your chest loosens because you've done the thing your nervous system is begging for. If they answer, even with a lazy crumb, you get that tiny dopamine hit. Your ego sighs, I'm not fully forgotten. And the old loop quietly restarts in the background. In the other future, you put the phone down, the message stays unsent, and instead of outsourcing relief to their reply, you sit with the raw anxiety that usually makes you run back. That second future feels wrong at first because your body has confused constant contact with safety. It can't yet tell the difference between real danger and the discomfort of not chasing. But this is exactly where the game begins to flip, because the moment you don't rescue the conversation, you also stop protecting their illusion that you'll always be there to stabilize the connection whenever they pull away. You're not playing hard to get, you're refusing to be emotional cheap labor, refusing to keep proving your worth to someone who never really had to prove theirs to you. Every time you choose not to break silence, you're teaching your nervous system a new rule. I can feel fear, rejection, and longing without immediately negotiating against my own self-respect. You may not feel powerful in that moment. Your hands might shake, your mind might beg you to send something. But that tiny decision is where your role in this story quietly shifts from the one who chases reassurance to the one who can actually hold a boundary. Section 4. Inversion. Her fortress turns into a cage. On their side, the silence they once used as a shield starts to feel different when you stop doing your usual thing and the familiar pattern doesn't reappear on schedule. At first, they might feel light, unbothered, even proud of how quickly they moved on. But the human brain is wired to check on things it used to control, so curiosity begins to creep in. They glance at your profile, they notice you haven't reached out, and a quiet question shows up in the back of their mind. Did I misread how much they needed me? If you stay silent long enough, that question can morph into something sharper. Not necessarily regret, but an uneasy awareness that they might not be as central in your story as they assumed. That's when the breadcrumbs usually start. A random reaction to an old story, a song sent out of nowhere, a casual, "How have you been?" with zero accountability for how things ended. These small pings aren't proof of deep change. They're emotional probes, ways of checking whether they still have access to your attention, your time, your body, your heart on demand. When you understand that, you stop reading breadcrumbs like love letters and start reading them like notifications from an old app that once ran your whole life. The fortress they built out of distance quietly turns into a cage, not because you're punishing them, but because your lack of response shines a light on the fact that control over you was never real security in the first place. Your silence here isn't revenge, it's simply the absence of extra energy, and that absence forces them to sit alone with the echo of their own choices in a way your chasing never allowed. Section 5. Integration. Building a self that doesn't orbit her. At some point, if you keep holding the line, the silence stops feeling like a cliff edge and starts feeling like neutral ground. Not comfortable yet, but not radioactive either. You still have spikes of longing, moments where a song or a memory lights your chest up. But instead of instantly reaching for your phone, you breathe, you notice, you let the wave rise and fall without trying to control it from the outside. That's your nervous system slowly learning that feeling something intensely doesn't mean you have to act on it. And that realization is bigger than any text you could ever get from them. As your focus drifts back into your own life, your body, your work, your friends, your quiet routines, you start to see how much space they used to occupy, not just on your screen, but in your self-talk, in your plans, in the way you measured your own value. You're no longer waking up and subconsciously checking, did they message? You're waking up and checking in with yourself. What version of me am I training today? Whether they come back, stay gone, or hover forever at the edges of your social media, the center of gravity has shifted. Your emotional climate is no longer determined by the temperature of their attention. And the more days you stack like this, feeling the urge, riding it out, choosing not to negotiate your worth away, the more foreign it becomes to imagine begging for crumbs from someone who once seemed like the only source of warmth in your world. Integration isn't dramatic. It's the quiet realization that your life didn't end in that silence. It was simply forced to grow in a different direction. In the end, when you both go no contact, the game doesn't flip the moment the messages stop. It flips in all the tiny moments after, where you choose not to abandon yourself just to avoid feeling abandoned by them. Silence doesn't argue, it doesn't chase, it doesn't audition for approval. It simply shows you who keeps reaching for whom, and who is willing to sit in discomfort long enough to grow out of an old role. You were never just fighting for them. You were fighting for a version of you that believed love had to be earned by overextending, over-explaining, over-giving. And now you're slowly retiring that job description. If this gave words to something you've been feeling but couldn't quite explain, hit like so it reaches more men who are stuck in the same quiet war. And subscribe if you want more deep dives into the psychology behind the people you can't forget and the patterns you're tired of repeating. Share this with the one friend who keeps breaking his own boundaries to keep a half-interested person close. Sometimes a new frame lands better from a story than from advice. If you ever choose to support PsycheLure beyond that, with a comment, with a super thanks, with just coming back to sit with these ideas, know that you're not feeding outrage. You're fueling a space where male pain is taken seriously without turning it into hate. I'm glad you made it this far. The silence between you and them is loud, but the conversation you have with yourself after this, that's where the real flip begins.